There are 39 people on death row in the state of Oklahoma. This is part 2 of the series. Ronnie Eugene Fon, 6 years on death row. Fon, a member of a gang, was found guilty of first-degree murder in connection with the shooting death of Michael Donnell Rhodes, 58 years old, on October 20, 2012. Prosecutors said that on the day of the shooting, Fon traveled to Oklahoma City to assist several female gang members in resolving a conflict with Rhodes's niece. Prosecutors claimed that that evening, Fon and other individuals went to Rhodes's home in northwest Oklahoma City to confront the niece. Fon opened fire inside the house 5 times after the door was kicked in, hitting Rhodes 3 times while he was lying on the couch with his 3-year-old daughter. The toddler was discovered covered in her father's blood. Prosecutors claimed that ballistic and telephone evidence linked Fon to the crime. According to authorities, Fon later boasted about the shooting incident. Richard Glossip, 27 years on death row. Barry Van Treese was killed by Justin Sneed on January 7, 1997, with a baseball bat. The murder took place at the Best Budget Inn in Oklahoma City, where Glossip was the manager. Sneed was the maintenance worker and Van Treese was the hotel's owner. Sneed confessed and admitted to the police that Glossip had given him the order to kill the victim in exchange for being spared the death penalty. Glossip resisted taking a plea deal because he claimed he was truly innocent. A jury in Oklahoma found Glossip guilty of the murder in July 1998, and they also gave him the death penalty. The conviction was overturned in 2001 by the unanimous Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, which described the prosecution's evidence as very poor and said Glossip had had unconstitutionally inadequate legal representation. A second Oklahoma jury found Glossip guilty of the murder in August 2004 and gave him the death penalty. Glossip claimed that his defense attorney had resigned because of intimidation by the prosecution. However, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals upheld the death penalty in April 2007, with 2 judges voting in favor, 1 judge specifically concurring, and 2 judges against. Sister Helen Pregine advocated for Glossip, but she was unsuccessful in persuading the clemency board to take into account letters from Sneed's relatives who think Sneed was lying. This execution is controversial because Glossip was almost entirely convicted based on Sneed's testimony, which he used to avoid the death penalty himself. Weegee Lay, 19 years on death row. Mr. Lay and his son Chris Lay attempted to rob a bank in Tulsa, Oklahoma in May 2004. The Lays entered the bank armed and covered in ski masks and gloves. Chris gave the command for the bank employee to fall to the ground right away, drawing the security guard's attention. The security guard died as a result of a shootout. The Lays were hurt and escaped without any money. They did not travel very far. Later that day, authorities caught them. September 2005 saw the trial of the Lays collectively. Mr. Lay opted to act on his own behalf while Chris was represented by legal counsel. They both acknowledged their wrongdoing, but they said their acts were acceptable since the government had grown oppressive and they needed the money from the bank to fund the patriotic revolution like the Founding Fathers did. First-degree murder and the gun-related attempted robbery were found to have been committed by Chris and Mr. Lay. Chris was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole, while Mr. Lay was given a death penalty. Emanuel Littlejohn, 31 years on death row. Littlejohn and Glenn Bethany robbed the Ruth and Scott in Oklahoma City while they were both 20 years old. Kenneth Mears, a 31-year-old victim of the heist, was slain as he approached the perpetrators with a broom. Littlejohn received a death sentence, while Bethany received a life sentence in jail. Littlejohn acknowledges taking part in the heist but claims not to have fired the fatal shot that struck Mears. Littlejohn had requested the Supreme Court to review whether his death sentence was lawful, since the jury had not been informed that his brain damage from his mother's extreme drug and alcohol misuse during his pregnancy could have been a possible explanation for his criminal behavior. Richard Norman Roem, 39 years on death row. Layla Dawn Cummings, his former stepdaughter, was 7-year-old when Richard Roem essayed, abducted, and killed her. Layla was taken from the apartment she shared with her mother Mindy Cummings and her brother Jason Cummings between 10 p.m. on July 6 and 1:15 a.m. on July 7. When Rick Quimby, who worked at a motel across the street, went to check on the kids, he discovered Layla was missing and informed Mindy at work. When Jason's mother left for work, he went to sleep, but when he heard the disturbance, he woke up. He said in court that he didn't hear any cries or struggle, but did saw Rick. Jason told his father, Don Cummings, in court that he believed Layla was with Rick, but he did not see or hear anything. Don Cummings is Layla and Jason's father. On July 7, a farmer discovered Layla's body in a field. She was killed by neck stab wounds. She had also suffered a stab wound to her private areas. Blood had drenched the ground 2 to 3 inches beneath her neck and chest, as well as the area around the crotch of her nightgown. The skin on her buttocks was torn and scratched with nails. Although she had suffered blunt force injuries in her private areas, no genetic material was discovered in her body. The majority of the information linking Roem to the crime was circumstantial. He recently divorced Mindy and made an effort to patch things up. He was aware of her work schedule and the malfunctioning apartment door lock. Near the flat, a plastic cup with his fingerprints on it was discovered. His beer had been put in a comparable cup and he had left the bar between 11:50 and 12:20. Roem contacted his workplace at 1:14 a.m. and asked the dispatcher to record the call at 12:35 a.m. Later on, he asked that the call be recorded at the proper time. The outside packaging of a condom was discovered by the police in Layla's nightgown's folds. An order form packed with that brand of condoms was also found at the crime site. Police discovered the condom packet and the used condom containing genetic material when they investigated Roem's room. This made up the entirety of a condom package. The washroom at the bar where Roem had been featured a dispenser selling this generic brand of condoms. Just before leaving the bar, he had gone to the bathroom. The 2 rear tires and 1 front tire of Roem's car were identified by tire track impressions close to the body. The other front tire's track impressions did not match the one on Roem's vehicle. However, the state provided evidence that Roem had changed that tire on July 7 in the morning. The other tires were 15-inch non-radials, whereas that one was a 14-inch radial. Roem had requested that a co-worker inform the police that he and another employee had changed Roem's tire following a blowout. The police may have a tire they used to put me in jail, Roem warned the co-worker, and if you don't tell them you changed the tire, it'll be death punishment and 2 lives instead of 1. The co-worker refused to lie. Roem claimed to have owned the car the entire time and that it had been involved in a homicide, according to a different co-worker. James Ryder, 24 years on death row. Sam and Daisy Hallam hired Ryder in the second half of 1998 to look after their house and horses while they were away. For roughly 4 to 5 months, Ryder resided at the Hallam's house without paying rent in exchange for labor he did around the house. Ryder told his friends that he was going to Yukon, and in preparation for the journey, he kept his supplies at the Hallam's house. These items included a trailer, tools, and camping and survival gear. He attempted to recover his belongings from the Hallams upon his return to the state. In order to perform a standby at the Hallam residence on April 2, 1999, Pittsburgh County Sheriff's Deputy Arnold was sent to meet Ryder at Highway 9A and McNally Road. Ryder identified himself and informed Deputy Arnold that he needed to get some personal items from the Hallams. Daisy answered the door when Arnold rang the bell. She gave Arnold a friendly greeting before slamming the door in Ryder's face. Daisy Hallam expressed her distaste for Ryder to Deputy Arnold and said that none of his possessions were present. She promised to bring the stuff there the next day and said it was in storage. Deputy Arnold and Ryder agreed to get together the following day at the same time to get the items. In the storage facility, Ryder only discovered 2 empty boxes. He went back to Cindy McCord's house where he was staying, and from the garage he took a shotgun and a pistol. On April 9, shortly after 9 a.m., Michael Newman, a neighbor of the Hallams, made the decision to visit the Hallams' home to get a welding equipment. He saw Sam Hallam face down in the front yard as he pulled into the driveway. Sam was stiff and he was dripping blood. Mr. Newman hurried home and dialed 911 the moment he discovered Sam was dead. Daisy Hallam was discovered in a shallow depression, lying face down, around 100 yards from the house. She was partially covered in a shower curtain. Daisy suffered a beating in the home's living room. The 70-year-old woman's head and face were covered with multiple cuts and bruises. She had a fractured skull, a broken nose, and a damaged left cheekbone. Her hands were battered, and some of her fingers were shattered, broken, and on the verge of being severed. These wounds were referred to as defensive wounds by the specialists, who claimed that they showed the woman had covered her face with her hands. A blow to the head was determined to be the cause of her death. According to the expert's testimony, 38-year-old Sam Hallam was shot multiple times. He was found to have at least 12 sizable shotgun pellets inside him. His heart, lungs, stomach, liver, pancreas, spleen, and left adrenal gland were all hit by bullets. Sam was walking when he was shot, according to the gunshot wounds, and was facing the home at the time. The wounds to his chest and abdomen were determined to be the cause of death. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.